Cool. Welcome everyone to the weekly analytics call. Seems like we have two agenda items for today for some reason. I guess the one I created earlier was just a copy and paste from the template. So let's use the one that's on top of our template. So I guess besides the issues that are just FYIs, Dan has the first agenda item for today.
If I can unmute myself. So some of you may have noticed a friendly new face in our little gallery here on the Zoom call. This is Magda. So she is joining us as a backend engineer, moving over from the Spaces team. So, you know, I think we already announced that on Slack, but I wanted to give Magda just an opportunity to say hi and tell us a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Dan. Hi all. Nice to meet you. And yeah, with some of you, we already met in the chat, and then I also scheduled calls with others. So I'm looking forward to talk in person. But yeah, I'm joining, I guess, like this week. It will be my first week. I'm actually ready to take an issue on. I've been with GitLab since October 2019. And as Dan said, I'm moving from Spaces now. Previously, before GitLab, I was working with consultancy company for like 3 years. And before that, for two product companies. But my background is in psychology and cultural studies. So I changed careers, and that was in like 2014. I live in Berlin since I think 9 years now. And I'm Polish in origin. And yeah, I'm looking forward to be working with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Magda. We're really excited to have you. And I think next is walking through blockers.
No blockers for today. That's great. Yeah. Welcome, Magda, by the way. Thanks for the nice introduction. Looking forward to working with you. I think if we don't have any blockers, then let's move to the on deck issues. John Mason, do you have a couple of issues that you wanted to talk about today?
Sure. I'll start by sharing my screen here. So I'll just walk through the planning issue for 13.1 and talk about what we're working on there. So we've got, as before, two sections, a candidate issues section and a selected issues section. And then I've got objectives and success for 13.1. The goal for 13.1 again is just get as far as we can on stuff related to the generics metrics API and the report page that we've been working on. And we've made some good progress in terms of breaking this generic analytics drill-in page issue down into a place to start. And we've decided to start with the recent activity charts, and new members, I think, is what we said would be the first of the set. We have talked about kind of some specific issues regarding the scoping. This where we will start section captures some of the agreements that we had in conversations yesterday about where we'll start with that, which basically is going to be a single page where we'll display a chart for the new member data, and the only thing, and that there will be some kind of URL that identifies that that data definition that tells us how to get the data and renders the chart, so that once that first page is finished, in order to add the same level of capabilities for MR or issues, all we would need to do is create a new data set definition, and we'd be able to render those as well. So really excited to see some great progress on figuring out what the parts of that are, and that's going to be a huge step forward. The other things that we're looking at is tracking the amount of time an issue is spent with a particular label, and some instrumentation for the North Star metric. This North Star metrics instrumentation is an OKR for this quarter for all of the product teams to have some new instrumentation for those North Star metrics. And you can read more about that there. And then we're also taking some great steps forward in the inbox analytics is the new name I've given to that. That Epic used to be called like embedded analytics, or embedded to-do pages and personal pages or something like that. Inbox analytics is actually a better description for what we're trying to do there. And there's a set of issues that we've already scoped down, and I think some of them we may even have started on. And then we'll be doing more research on to-dos with inbox analytics. And then also contribution analytics, adding the approvals column, and then adding filters to VSA. So that's our planning thus far. If there are other issues you all think should be included in the planning, please bring them to our attention, and feel free to jump into the discussion on any of these items.
John Mason, 2 questions for you. So I think
Sure.
on contribution analytics, we might have a couple of blockers. I guess this isn't the question. So we may want to add those to this list, and in which case we may need to bump actually adding the approvals column to 13.2. I guess that would be if we're handling the blockers in 13.1. My actual question is, do we have a planning call scheduled for this week for the final planning?
No, that was actually something I was going to ask about. Kind of time zone. I was thinking we would do that perhaps on Thursday, but we don't really have great overlap for time. So I started to put together, I was starting to look up, when's a good time, and it either means an early morning for you or a late night for Martin. And
don't we have already something set up for tomorrow? I believe there's a 13.1 release planning.
Oh, yes, you're right. I think
you sent it out today.
You're right. I did. I had forgotten that. I did that late last night.
I think that was planned for tomorrow, Wednesday.
Yes,
Yep.
Right. So I think this is like the 3rd meeting in a row, Martin, that you're doing at this time. So I'm sorry we're keeping
No
you
worries.
up late every night. I mean, a good follow-on question we can take offline for you and Dan is how can we pick a time for this that's fair to both of you? I always struggle with scheduling those. So
I'm happy to work in the morning.
About that.
That's an easy one.
Okay.
It's not too late for
All
me.
right.
It's 4 p.m. That's perfectly fine.
Okay. Very good. Okay, so I think that is what I had for the planning. Did you? I've already created a planning issue for 3.2, but there's nothing much in there yet. The way that I'm thinking that this is going to play out is we'll make our first MVC of this report object page, see how far we can get with it, and then 3.2, get it to the point where it's becoming more useful and we can start leveraging it from other places. And then by 3.2, we should be ready to take off the next bigger chunk of the to-dos or the inbox analytics piece. And we'll also start scoping some stuff related to inbox analytics for sort of the MR inbox, which is a big part of the feedback that we've had so far is tracking MRs. And then after that, the next thing that we're likely to be starting to scope on in 3.2 and 3.3, starting to chip away at it are things related to helping with planning and tracking. So some of the feedback we've had from customers is that even in cases where developers will use GitLab for issues, the agile project managers will not use it. They'll still wind up doing things in Jira. And that's just because they don't have the kind of analytics that they need to support their planning exercises. So that's sort of the next big piece we'll be taking a look at, while we're also refining kind of our vision for where we want to go with VSA. In order to make kind of where we're going a lot more clear than it is today, I'll be working on updates to direction pages and categories this week and reviewing with Jeremy so that we have a clearer sense of what would be happening over the next 6 to 9 months. We've had a series of these collaboration meetings with Gabe's team. The next one will be coming up, and the agenda is for that there if you're interested in that. So with that, I'll hand it over to Brandon, unless there are any questions for me.
Cool, no questions. So I'm gonna share my screen. Just a super quick demo on the update for Value Stream Analytics path components. If I can get past the Zoom bar, it is now hiding all of my tabs. Cool. So this is basically what it looks like in GitLab. We've got the total stage, which is renamed to Overview and has the little home icon. And then these two are currently synced up. So if we were to select one at the top on the vertical navigation, that will be updated as well. The same if you were to select here on the vertical navigation, the horizontal path navigation will be updated. I don't have a lot of data on my local dev environment, so a lot of these aren't completely updated. And this is also behind a feature flag, which can be turned on and off. Last thing is probably just to show that it is responsive and that slides nicely from start through to the end. Are there any questions on that?
This looks really cool.
Amazing. Yeah, it looks amazing.
It's very nice. That's awesome.
And the mobile responsiveness works really well as well. You smashed that, mate. So based on the new region design, we may need to move the path outside of the gray bit. Is that relatively easy to do?
Yeah, so it would have
That-
actually been easier if the path was out of the gray bit from the beginning.
Yes,
Just
sorry,
ran into
I
some
changed
problems
my
with
mind.
background colors and things.
Yeah,
The background color issue, right?
Oh God, I'm sorry. Yeah, like based on the recent work I did on the filter region, basically we're gonna have to move that path out. So I can create an issue for that.
Cool, no problem. I can do it as part of this merge request as well if it's just moving it up. Shouldn't be much finishing. We should still be on schedule for 13.0.
Oh well, if it's that easy, then yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. So I assume it's me now. I'll share my screen.
Just one quick question regarding the path component. So what we saw now was having both navigation elements being activated at the same time. Ideally, we will just we will toggle it with the feature flag, right? So my understanding is that we will most likely only have one of the two elements being active, right?
So with the initial release, there's no customization options for like dragging for editing stages and things like that when you just have the horizontal navigation. So we still need that vertical navigation just so that you can still have all of those controls. But with the feature flag, you can basically just toggle if you want, and I'll see the new one as well.
Right. And then later on, once we have drag and drop support for the horizontal path component, we should be able to just turn on one of the two components, right, and deactivate the other one.
Yeah, that's from my understanding the approach we're going to be taking as well.
Yeah, cool. Sounds great. Sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No problem. Oh, let me find where the Zoom controls are again, because they love to jump around. Yeah, so John Mason discussed a little bit about the application of using the report object for our generic metrics drill down pattern applied to the group overview metrics. This right here is basically the abstraction or generalization of that. And I've started to document how the report object would look. And then I'm also in the process of creating a number of examples of that, because I'm working on the general sorry, my head's all screwed around here, because the group overview metric pages. So this is a little bit of what I've designed right now, and it would be great for anyone to give me their feedback on the documentation to sort of just understand from a high level how this works. Basically, the documentation is broken down into just an overview, the primary workflows based on the jobs to be done of the report object. So the report object is quite simple. It's only got two workflows that I can think of. One is the drill down pattern, which is what we're doing currently, and two is like creating a custom report. And structuring stuff in this way will allow us to generalize a lot more and allow us to get multiple designers to focus on a single object and focus on improving an object, which can apply to the entirety of GitLab rather than focusing on a component, which isn't really a component because they're not put it into the design system in different parts of the product. So this is hopefully going to help to standardize ways of approaching stuff. So yeah, if you can provide some feedback on there, that would be great. And I did a little sketch video as well in the thingy underneath. And if you have 8 minutes and 30 seconds, feel free to look at that video. That's basically describing a like John Mason and I, we had a bit of a discussion the other day around how our navigation in analytics could work and what are the sort of steps that we want to take in order to get to a big sort of open homepage of analytics, reports, dashboards, all this sort of stuff. So this is just a condensed video of our conversation, of me explaining sort of the rationale behind what we're doing and why objects are a useful part of that. So if you have any questions or comments or concerns or anything along those lines, let me know.
If there are no questions for Nick, the last item was mine. I'll pause to make sure that anybody has questions for Nick. You've got time, but after that, I wanted to ask how we can make this meeting better.
I have a question on that count. So we haven't been walking the board just because, we were kind of thinking that, the labels indicate the issue status and that kind of thing. Does anybody feel like maybe we should keep walking the board? I mean, like that was an experiment to stop doing that. Has anybody not liked the experiment? Okay. I mean, feel free to change your mind in the future, but it was just something I was curious about. Like, should we be walking what's currently on the board versus just assuming it's taken care of in comments?
I guess instead of walking the board, what we added instead was the agenda item about potential blockers, right? So we figured it might be more useful instead of walking through or going through the entire board. We just pick particular blockers that we can talk about. So far we didn't have any blockers to talk about, but I like it better personally. But if we feel we need to walk the board, I'm open for that.
I like the new approach. To be honest, I just forgot the other day what we were supposed to do on an issue that we thought might slip. So just had to go back a little bit in the history of the agenda to see that we need to use the health status. So maybe just a good reminder about the health status attribute on issues if you think that might slip.
That's a great point, especially with the upcoming release planning. So should we do that? Is that something we should consider adding to every agenda, or is it more useful to only discuss health status on issues once a month, like before we do the release planning for the next milestone?
I think that's a good idea. So I guess that would be like in this meeting, because I don't think we can filter for health status, which is the big drawback with it. So maybe we can just use the meeting right before the final planning as a call out for that, of like, please list anything that has a health status of at risk.
That makes sense to me.
Well, maybe we can experiment with that right now. Has anybody put anything, has anybody labeled anything as at risk? Any issues for 13.0?
I labeled the issue analytics table. That one is definitely at risk for 13.0.
I'm trying to access the board, but.
Which one is that? The issue analytics table? Could you link it?
Sure, just quickly get in the link. I know we split that into 2 issues as well.
One of the
It seems
things that
someone beat me.
I've struggled with is it seems like often in my past experience with different teams, oftentimes I found that issues that don't make it, that the problem often happens early in the iteration rather than late. Um, Something that it just hasn't gained enough momentum until too late in the iteration to get over the line. And I can't figure out a very good way of seeing issues that I would expect to be moving that aren't. In other words, issues with no activity that are planned for the release. Is there a good way of doing that with GitLab?
You mean to identify issues that haven't had any movement since the beginning of the milestone? I guess
That's
that's I think, well, part of the problem is probably if a developer starts to work on one particular issue and doesn't get blocked on that issue, but it just needs time to wrap something up, then in most cases, he wouldn't start on a new issue until he finishes the first one or until he realizes, okay, at this point in time, I'm being blocked, so I can pick up something else. And I believe in this particular issue, Brandon spent most of the time working on the pass component. So I guess the only thing that we could do is, I'm not sure if we can use the updated add status to identify those issues, but updated add will only change. Would that also change if you add a comment to the issue or if you change the status? So I wonder, when is updated add being changed to a new date?
Updated at will update if you add a comment to the issue.
Okay, so in that case, since you've been quite active on the issue, it wouldn't have helped us in that case, right? Because we decided to split it and then you looked into the issue, you provided some feedback. So there was still some activity on the issue, but work hasn't like completed or hasn't started. So I wonder if that would be like a helpful metric in this regard.
No, I probably wouldn't have solved that issue, and I'm not really, wasn't really concerned about that specific one, but I just, in general, that's something that in the past I've tried to watch is, every 24, 48 hours, look at everything and see which ones are moving and which ones aren't. And I've not found a very good way of doing that. I suppose what you suggested, just search for all the issues in the milestone and then sort by last updated date and find the ones at the bottom. And that's probably the best.
I guess that at least that would help us to identify issues that maybe we have not on our radar, or somebody like missed looking at those issues. That would definitely help us. But with issues that where there is still activity, there's still people commenting on the issue or already creating MRs for it, I think those issues would still slip. But I guess it could still help us to identify issues that are maybe not assigned to developers or haven't been commented on or updated in a couple of days. But coming back to the health status, should we add this to the agenda and make it a sticky item for every third or fourth meeting? So the meeting that's happening before the release planning for the upcoming milestone. I guess it would still help us to like keep track of issues that have like a high potential of slipping, and then we can make sure that we reprioritize them for the next milestone.
I almost think we should do that in every call. Yes.
Yes.
Call out anything you're worried about slipping. So maybe should we change blockers to just anything we're worried about slipping?
Either change it or make an additional item. Yeah.
Blockers and concerns.
I like that.
I just updated the template up at the top.
Perfect. Yep. Sounds good. Okay, anything else? Any additional bonus content? Nope. All right. Then thanks everyone. And wish you a good rest of your day. Talk soon.
Thanks, everybody.